Hey, Shalom, Shalom, call halal, Yahba Shem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors, of course, to the elders, apostles, salutations to the elect. Man, just getting off the plant, coming through the old hood up in Irvington, where I came up at half of my upgrowing Clinton Ave side. Long day, so just got me a little sit to wind down on, nothing too crazy. And went to the liquor store out here, known liquor store everybody used to go to. Man, I saw this dude I know, let's say no names, but it's just going, man. And he was kind of like, he was a short type dude, but had some spunk to him, on his blood shit or whatever, making money, whatever, carrying guns and, Jake shit. But he was like kind of like one of them dudes, like with some type of name. When I saw him now, when I don't see people now, I was like, motherfuckers dead or in jail. But you forgot. So that was kind of the options, coming up, like in the 90s, the 80s, early 2000s. I'm actually an 80s baby, but so like 90s, early 2000s, death in jail. But now, Salaki is like raining cats and dogs. But now, your option is, So, Salakia, so death in jail was normally the option. And I got like these bites and shit on me and shit. I think like some mosquitoes hit me up. But now, like, that's kind of what your parents feared you would get caught up in. Those two options. So they try to keep you out of the streets. So, turning into an actual like druggie, or like so this dude, you could tell he was strung out, like he was skinny as hell. So I didn't even see him. When I jumped out, went in the store, he saw me, he like, damn, you got big as hell. Which my height didn't grow, because he used to see me like downtown North camping and all of that. And I actually lost weight, I think I was like 240 back then when he saw me. 5'11", 240. So like now I'm like 5'11", same height. But like 215 or some shit like that. So I know when he said you got big as hell, it's just like the distance from the time he seen me. And he asked like you could get me like a cigarette. I'm like, I don't buy you no fucking cigarette. I did get him a couple of shots just for the, for the hell of it. And it's funny, he asked for money, but I don't be having really money like that. I'm like, yo, and I would have hit him because I did know him, or whatever. But I might have hit him, depending on the spirit, because, giving depends on the spirit. Even though, it say help not a sinner, sometimes you have mercy and still give. But I might have just got the car. So this whole digital world, too, you ain't gonna be able to like get nobody 50 cents or $1 or $2 or no shit like that. And I just fucked me up seeing them like that. Cause that's worse than death in jail. Being out here and you just like you just strung out. And I saw a couple of the older heads, so like older base heads, I'm gonna say that. I saw the older base heads that was older than them, they like 60. So I'm 40, so he was a little older than me. He like 45, 46, 47. So these older base heads, when we was running in our 20s, they like 65, 70 type shit. So he out there hanging with them, who he used to at one point sell to and come up off of. And that's the power of the Lord, man. So this thing is scary. So it is just like, damn, like, this shit recently happened. I had to park my car and do a video. It's like to wrap my mind, you know, around this shit. And it's like, damn. So it's like 4 things now. You got death, you got the jail. That's your least worries. And really, that shit could be a relief from this world if you look at it from a certain perspective. But now you got what? So people were strung out, you know, but people ain't like, you know what I mean, with this fentanyl and the drugs, the oxycodons and shit like that. You know what I mean? The syrup and all that shit, and the lean and the promethazine and the Mali, whatever the fuck, like that shit. So now everybody kind of like doped up and fucked up and shit. You know, not everybody, but like, because before it was like, yo, you couldn't, coming up in the 90s, like, it was just weed and alcohol. Motherfuckers saw you doing some other shit. Niggas fuck with you, they'll beat your ass. Out of love, though. Not smack that shit out of their hand, fuck you up, beat your ass. Because that's kind of how, like, the vibe was. You know what I mean? Well, up top where I'm from, you know what I mean? You couldn't. I mean, niggas kind of started dealing with ecstasy when that shit came out a little bit on some experiment shit, but niggas just mainly drank and smoked weed. That was it. And sometimes you ain't even did like both, or sometimes you take a couple drags, and I'm not promoting that. Well, you could drink, of course, but like the bud smoke, I'm not promoting that. But it's crazy how, like, you know, you dancing with Satan, like, he straight up turn your ass to a crackhead. How you strung out, bone showing, face skinny as hell, just fucking gone, man. Now the Lord could bring him back, you know what I mean? Because that's the power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. But just to see it, you know, I've been in Maryland for like 3 years. So, you know, certain shit is like a little shocker for me still, like coming through, swinging through here, swinging through there. And I try not to be like seen for my own personal reasons. It ain't no big deal, but I just try not to. I don't want to see motherfuckers, you know what I mean? Personally. But yeah. And then the 4th thing, like, you know, you got death, jail, being strung out, homeless, just fucked up on the needle, the opioids. Then you got the sodomite spirit. So people ain't really, I mean, that shit was around, but it wasn't heavy like it is now. Now, like, the average kid, 16, 15, like, that shit is a rampant thing. So it's like your kids, and that's why the spirit of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, gotta be, you know, on you, your children, to really dodge these bullets out here. Because Esau got this shit booby trapped for real. Word up. Like, man. So, like, if you don't be a nigga in the streets and get killed or go to jail for a long ass time, and you still out here, your ass gonna eventually turn into, like, you know what I mean, bugged out of, which that shit worse than death in jail. That shit worse than hell. And you just turning this perimeter, circling the same old perimeter, you know? And strung out. And if not that, if that don't eat you up, death or jail, the fucking it's lucky I just got in thought. Being strung out will. And if that don't eat you up, that sodomite shit. But see, shit like this, back in the day, shit like this happened later on to people in life. You know what I mean? They'll live out their teens and their 20s and maybe their 30s. And if they did turn into a dope fiend or some shit like that, that should have happened later on, like in their late 30s, 40s type shit. Like around the age I am now. But now the way Satan clipping niggas, like, ain't no money in the streets. And if it is, that shit a booby trap. You ain't getting no run, no long ass run making money. Motherfuckers broke. Jealousy, death, robberies, all that shit is at an all-time high. And then, like, you being strung out, like, you see, like, young niggas begging for money. Like, even he was young. He, like, 40. I'm 40, so he, like, 45, 46, some shit like that. So, young niggas is, like, strung out. Not in their 40s. Motherfuckers strung out like at 19, 22. Asking you for 50 cents and shit. You know what I mean? Some of them still got their health. But and that show you what? That the mental, you know, it's funny, when I was in Baltimore, I thought it was like a Baltimore thing. But it's like a generational thing because the whole earth is just like getting worse. Because when I left, shit wasn't bad to the extent. Now, Baltimore is a different animal compared to a lot of other cities, but it still wasn't like certain shit like, man, this shit is kind of like a generational type breakdown thing. Everybody dumb as hell, fucked up, stupid and shit. So, and all of this shit happening at a way faster rate. You ain't got your 20s and your half of your 30s to live. You know what I mean? To have fun and wild out and be in your youth and, you know what I mean, make money and, you know what I mean? Because them street niggas back then, they had these little nice little runs. But now the Lord ain't playing. He's straight up fucking picking niggas off. And not by the bullet, you know, that too, but like, that's mercy, for real. You know what I mean? Lord picking niggas off in a whole bunch of other ways. And that shit's scary. So brothers gotta stay prayed up, and you gotta, you know, I go through my little shit here and there, you know, catch hell, whatever. But you gotta be thankful for this truth, because this truth preserves you. In so many words, he said, damn, man, you look good, because he said you got big as hell. He was basically saying, you look good, you look healthy. He was like, and I'm not even like at the peak that I want to be as far as like my physique, and I'm not dressed like, I got like, it's rain, I got like bullshit clothes on. But he probably comparing me to the last time he probably thought saw me, you know. But yeah, man, that's it. But hey, it's a beautiful thing to be in this truth. And this truth preserves you from a lot of shit, believe it or not. You know, it's a wise saying is, privilege is blind to those that have it. So a lot of people who feel privileged, you know, and sometimes in this truth you could, you know, we privileged to be in this truth. But you might be blind to a lot of blessings or a lot of things the Lord preserving you from. You know, you can be fuck around and be blind to that. You know. But oh, the fifth thing is, but this always been around, you just enslaved to some bitch. Like your whole existence. And this is, I don't know what's worse. Like, so you got some people I know that moved away before I ended. Can't forget this one. They move like, you know, niggas move down south and shit like that. Whatever city down, Raleigh, Atlanta, whatever, wherever niggas at. But they whole existence, everything they do, everything they want to do, they can't breathe, move, do nothing, say nothing. They constantly get shitted on and disrespected. by some woman that they just gotta suck up to for possibly the rest of their lives. And you just enslave everything. Your whole world's revolve around this nagging ass bitch, and she committing adultery on you. Maybe you got proof, maybe you don't. But she just got you around as this little handyman slave to do shit. But there's no respect, and it's fuck you, and she just like treat you straight up like shit. And you gotta do everything she tell you to do, or else, nigga, like, you either get kicked out, or like, I'm gonna take your kids from you, or, you know, they threaten you with shit. That's why you can't care about shit in this world. And if you do, don't let the enemy know. And Eve, it could be the enemy. You know what I mean? So, man, and me personally, I ain't enslaved to like none of them shits. Now, could the Lord change that? Of course he could. So that's why you gotta be humble. You know, them 5 things. So all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man, for preserving brothers through the Holy Spirit, the Harakah Kadash. And with that, man, y'all brothers hold it down. I'm about to peel up out of here. Shalom, Yahweh Shem Shabbat.